Welcome to Publishing Power. My name is Joellen. I am your host today. And today we are here with Brian Judd. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Joellen.
Nice to have you here. Brian is the Executive Director of the APSS, which was formerly known as SPAN. It's the Association of Publishers for Special Sales, which of course gives him a deep insight to book marketing. He's also the founder of the Bookselling University, which you can find at bookselling.university.com. And the exciting part is right now all the courses are free, so please check that out. And he's the author of How to Make Real Money Selling Books, which is why we want to pick your brain today. Brian offers commission-based sales of book buyers in non-bookstore markets. So again, thank you for joining us, Brian. I have loads of questions to find out about from you today.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. Tell us a little bit about your background here with the book marketing, because it's so wide and so diverse that I think people want to find out who you are and how to learn more from you.
Actually, I was laid off my job. I was in the corporate world and got laid off, and so I wanted to try something else. So I thought, how hard could it be to write a book? And so I wrote several books on how to get a job, because I had a lot of experience doing that. And I found out about selling through bookstores is not a great way to make a lot of money because of the returns, of the discounts, and all the competition. So I asked a really important question, and that's basically built my career. And I thought, who else can use the information in my book? So, and one thing is to stop selling my books and start selling the content, the information in it, and thought about who else could use it. So I went to colleges and started selling books to colleges, to college students at full price with no returns, and did a lot of presentations. I started selling books to state governments. And actually, what really turned another thing around, Joellen, is that I learned that one thing that in this type of selling outside of bookstores, that form doesn't matter, that you're not selling books, because college students didn't want to spend money for a book. So I took the chapters out and created little booklets and sold those to the colleges, or gave them to the students, sold those to state governments. And so they bought the books, they bought the booklets. I did a video on interviewing. Mm-hmm. So it's the content. I learned the content is important, not the format in which it's delivered.
Exactly. And that's very important, because we've been in this journey now for over a decade where Amazon changed everything, and ebooks and all of this fantastic ability to self-publish. But it all comes down to, why do they want to listen to you? And if it's nonfiction, then of course it's, what information am I going to gain? And if it's fiction, then what kind of adventure you're going to take me on? And the same, we do academic also. So it's, what problem are you solving? And those are very, very important. And it's all about the communication, not necessarily the form, as you say. So it's really great. And I admire that, because my first books were also nonfiction, directly to a niche market. And I was amazed and extremely happy on how well it worked. And I think people need to experiment more with that. So
that's really a key point too, Joellen, about the niche market. That when I work with authors now, I'll say, who's your target reader? And they'll say, well, everybody. How are you going to contact everybody? So it's really important to define your target reader and buyer, and then put those in these niches, in these groups, and market to them as they require.
Exactly. So it's very important. So you've got a lot of information, and I'm very excited about the Bookselling University with all of those courses there. Tell us about book marketing. What are key areas to consider when you're marketing your book?
Well, the 4 P's of marketing: the product, the place, the price, and the promotion. And the product is, as we just mentioned, it's a variable. It's just you want to find out the form in which your target wants it delivered, which could be, if it's an older demographic, it may be a large print book. It could be via the phone. It could be a book. It could be booklets. So, but it doesn't really matter. For corporate selling or associations, they want it delivered as a seminar or a workshop. So the form is variable. Then the place where you have it, and that's where you have it available. And that's basically where your target readers shop. Is a family shopping in supermarkets? Or they travel a lot? May be in airport stores, discount stores. So you want to have your book where people shop. And the price, obviously, priced at a value level, so people get your content is valuable to them. So you want to price it not with your competitors at the same price as your competitors, but as much as your target is willing to pay for it. And the promotion being not just social media, You want to be able to get on advertising, on publicity, on podcasts such as yours. And so you're reaching a lot of people. So the more varied you can make all these, work with these. I make the point of a kaleidoscope, that you have all these different pieces in this kaleidoscope. Every turn that you do with it creates a different image. The same thing with all these pieces of your marketing plan are in there. And then the more that you can turn it, the more that you can adjust it, and then the different picture that you get. So it's marketing is just looking at all these variables that you have at your disposal and then implementing those for each different segment. A retail segment buys a lot more differently than a school or a corporation or an association. So you have to be able to find out how you can manipulate these marketing activities for each one of these groups.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And I've been following your newsletter, and you give a lot of really great information in that, and I encourage people to sign up. The information that always gets me, that I'm always curious about, is everyone has a different approach to how they're going to create their book or market their book and different things. And you've talked about book strategy. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about how do we create a book strategy? I'm sure it ties in.
Well, it starts off with your target readers. And you think of the 5 W's of who, what, where, when, and why. You know, who are they? When do they shop? Why do they need your information? What form do they want it? And so if you have these 5 W's, that really creates your strategy. Then you're looking at these, at each one of these buyers, if it's a family, as I said before, that they're looking at, may have a book about raising children. So your target could be the parents, and where would they shop? It could be work at home moms, work at home dads, supermarkets, maybe discount stores if they're tight on budget money. So by knowing where they shop is set your strategy for your distribution. So and why do they buy? What form do they buy? So the more that you can look at these, I went to one state government with my job search book. And they said, we love your book, but we're not going to buy it. I said, well, we do workshops, and a perfect bound book doesn't lay flat. It just comes back as it is. So I took it to Staples, cut off the binding, had wire binding put on it, and brought it back to it. And they loved it. They put a standing order in for 8,000 books a quarter. And then I said, who's doing the workshops? And they said, well, a variety of people. So why not have the author do the workshops? So I got paid for the presentations. I got paid for having the book, because I was looking at solving problems. And that's the way I look at a book as you would Arm & Hammer baking soda. Yeah, how is that used? It's as a deodorizer, as a toothpaste, for recipes. So a lot of different ways, but the product hasn't changed. So your book is the same thing. So your strategy has to take the content, this information, and direct it to these different segments for their reasons for buying. So the college students wanted the information in a booklet. The state governments wanted it in a spiral-bound book, and the content doesn't change. It's the same as the Arm & Hammer baking soda. That the content doesn't change, but the way you deliver it, the way it's used, is different. So that dictates your strategy.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, I can see that would go around with what audience you're targeting and how you're doing your marketing.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing there. So what kind of information do we need? I mean, you talked about now you went out and you had this book and it was bound, and so you changed it. How does that affect pricing? You know, when you're, how do you choose the right price for your book?
Great question. It's something that it's based upon the value for it, certainly, and it's difficult to say. When you're marketing to a corporation, to an association, they don't buy books for resale, so they're buying books to use as a promotional item. So you don't have all the competition on the shelf right next to your book. Mm-hmm. And so you don't have to price your book just at the same as competition. So you're looking at your costs, certainly, but then looking at the information that you bring and how you deliver it in the format. So you don't want to be evasive, but there really is no set, well, there's a formula that I use, but it's something that it takes a time to go into. But you can think about the information you bring, the discounting for it. In corporate selling, you're looking at the cost plus. So the price doesn't really doesn't matter, in the sense that you're looking at, when you get an order for 10,000 books, you're pricing it based upon the cost and that, and then upcharge for that. Where on retail, you're looking at it from the list price down. So you need to make sure that your price covers all your costs, certainly. So if you are selling through any retailer, they'll probably take a 50% discount. The distributors are going to take anywhere, wholesalers 55 to distributors 65%. So you have to look at your cost. Will your list price allow a 65 to 70% discount and still make money, still be profitable?
Mm.
So it's really, it's something that there are a lot of these variables that go into it. It's not just, well, my competition's at $14.95, so that's where I'm going to be. Because if your competition is printing 10,000 books at a time, then their printing cost may be $1. But if you're printing 100 books at a time, your printing cost may be $3. So if you have the same list price as your competitors, you could be losing money. So there are so many different things to go into it, but it's just not the page count. Some people look at that. It's not my competition is. It's how can I make money and give them the value. If you have your book on the shelf, like for job search books, they're all alphabetical by author. So Judd goes here, and all the books nearby have the same, may have the same content, the same type of information. My content was better, of course, but it was something that people go there. They'll look at, well, here's Judd's book at $14.95. Here's another book at $12.95. Well, it's about the same. I think I'll go with $12.95. So that you have to be able to create the value for that. On your rear cover copy's got to demonstrate why you have that. And what we've also played around with is putting QR codes on the back of the book, so people can take their phone out, go to a list of reasons why you should buy my book.
Right.
And it could go to a video of the author talking about the benefits of the book. So there are some techniques you can use to create that value, mm-hmm. and charge a higher price for it.
Well, what I love you're talking about right here is differentiation, and how to, stand out, because when you're on Amazon and these other, it's a virtual bookstore, then that's what you are doing. You're just sitting amongst the many. But when you're going outside of the traditional book sales and you're going to the special sales, as you're talking about, the niche marketing, then your opportunities are so much wider, and you can speak so much clearer to the people that you are looking for, because you probably have so much less competition in general. And it
sure.
really is.
If you call on a corporate buyer, you probably have zero competition. Well, let me clarify that. Zero competition from books.
Right.
That if you go to a company that wants to come up with a premium to help introduce a new product, well, they may be looking at your book, maybe coffee mugs, maybe golf shirts and umbrellas or keychains or something. So you've got to be able to find out that. And for example, when if you go to a buyer and the buyer may say, tell me about your book. Mm-hmm. Well, it's 320 pages. It's 6x9. It's got some great reviews and look at these testimonials and the 4-color photographs. And it's only $14.95. If you buy 10,000 today, I'll give you 50% off. How many do you want? Well, none. But if you say, the buyer says, tell me about your book. Okay, may I ask you a question first? Sure. Have you ever used books before as a promotional item? No, we haven't. What do you use? Well, we use coffee mugs. What do you use those for? Well, at trade shows, if people come to our exhibit, we give them a coffee mug as a thank you. Well, do you have to store those? Well, yeah. Do you ship them to the trade shows? Do they ever break? Well, yeah. How many did you normally buy? Well, we normally buy about 5,000 at a time. So now, what do you know? You know the pain points. You know that they, first of all, they don't have something that's different from everybody else. Everybody has a coffee mug. They have to store those. They have to ship them. They get broken, and they buy about 5,000 at a time. So they're about $3 each. So you know that their budget is $15,000. Mm-hmm. So just by turning the whole process around, you're trying to solve problems, not selling books. Right. And so now you have all this information. Now you can start directing your sales pitch to them. You talk about using ebooks, that there is no storage, there's no shipping, there is no broken product, and it's something that's different from everybody else. And so you give them one-time use codes so that people can download a variety of different titles that they want. Mm-hmm. So you have a custom product that people, and well, that's just an example of how the difference between selling your book and solving problems. And that's what particularly in the non-retail sector of special sales, it's critical to have that approach to it. That the least important thing in the whole process is your book. Mm. And the most important thing is solving the buyer's problems.
Right. I love we're talking marketing here, because it really is about that. And it's the differentiation, it's the pulling it back. But the interesting fact that you'll get back, especially if you have a QR code or a download, as long as you're tracking that, you're going to get to know your audience so much better and find opportunities that you didn't know about. If this is a much bigger market than you ever opened up, you take a shot there and you do a little promotion and bang, suddenly you're the top author in that field. And that's really
Exactly.
fantastic. So it's
Yeah.
combining all those marketing pieces together. And the reason why I like to talk about this is, we're editors. So we're doing the books when people think that they're done and they're about ready to go and they're going to sell this book and the world is going to change, when they're really at the very first step of, and maybe the third if they're doing it right, the step of now you have to do your marketing, your promotion, your book launching, your PR, all of those exciting things, which may or may not be your specialty. So it's really good to have experts like yourself here who can, bring it in and talk the language of the buyers on your behalf. So I really like that. How do we generate more media? Because I know that once we find our little pieces, how do we generate media for our book, and what are some things that maybe we're not thinking about?
Media, talking about getting on TV and radio shows or social media, or just
I think
both?
authors miss that. I think they're only thinking, okay, I've got a book and basic book launch. They say, okay, I know I need a website and I know I'm supposed to have an audience, and I know I'm supposed to, do some social marketing, and I should go to a bookstore and do a book signing. So they're on their basics. I mean, that's kind of the egg, but you're dealing with special sales and you're giving us new insights from a fresh perspective. So what would be additional? I mean, you're talking about television. Absolutely. Everybody wants to do that. How do they generate this kind of media?
Great question. And there are two segments of special sales. There's retail and non-retail.
Mm-hmm.
So retail, you're looking more at the pull strategy, where you're going to the buyers and getting them to go to the store and ask for your book, or if they see your book, then they're familiar with it. So the TV is great. When you go to any TV or radio show, to the producer, you can't say, I've got a great book, I'd like to be on your show. You have to talk about the fact, here's your audience, and I have information that's applicable that your audience would be interested in. And because their objective is not to have you on the show to sell your book. Their objective is to have a good show for their audience.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you know that, and have when you call people, have a good 30-second voicemail message. Not something that you just talk for 2 or 3 minutes about your book, because they don't want to hear that. So it's just, I help who want get. I help your audience, describe it, who want to save money selling books, get more large sales, non-returnable sales to non-bookstore buyers. So in one sentence, you say what that is. But then if you go to a radio show, a website that's called radio-locator.com, and just put in the city name with the zip code, and it gives you all the radio stations in that area by format. So if you have a children's book, you can go for children's stations, or you can go for a cookbook, then you go to cook stations. But then you can contact them and let them know that it's a hot link directly to their website, so that you can find out about their station. So that's social media. Social networking is important. Certainly, social media includes networking, podcast, website, blogging, so you can do all that. That's retail. That's really important in retail. And non-retail, it's more important to have, it's personal selling, because if you go to what I like to do is go to a trade show where it has all these companies that are my target buyers in one spot. So I'll go there, so you create literature, and you find out, learn about selling, about negotiating, about doing a presentation. So it's the one-on-one with the buyer in the non-retail, but in the retail, it's the getting the people when they go into the Walmart or go into Neiman Marcus or go into an airport store or a gift shop at a hotel, they see your book there. And they say, oh, I heard about that, and then they'll buy that. So the media strategy is really different, again, depending on the segment, the retailer or non-retail segments that you're going for.
So it's always going back to our audience and knowing our audience and meeting them where they are, doing what they like, meeting them in whatever, it's been interesting as I've talked to more and more experts, just knowing your demographics, if that's a new word, but knowing who's reading you or looking for your type. And again, looking at other authors or experts who do similar work and follow them for a while, meet their people and see what, if that's where you are, then you're not alone. So it's quite fun. And you mentioned, go ahead.
Something you said before about doing a book signing, that I did several of those. They're very lonely events. And So what I started back my job search book, Joellen. So what I did was I did a seminar. I go to the bookstore, do a seminar on how to get a job, and a lot of people came to that. And then I had my books for sale there. So it wasn't just come in and buy my book at a book signing. It's you're solving their problem, and then they will come to find out about that, and that's when you sell your books because you've solved their problems.
Right.
So you can do a lot of these events in airport stores, in supermarkets, in Costco's, in Walmart, so that they want that. That's what's going to give extra value for their store, for their customers. So the more that you can do an event and not just a signing, again, you're thinking about your book is not the important thing.
Yeah.
It's the buyer is the most important thing in helping them. So that anyway, think more events than signings.
Exactly. The more you give, the more you get in general. I mean, and that works in life. So those different kind of promotions are extremely great. So what are the additional methods? I mean, you've mentioned a lot of different ones, but let's just kind of outline those a little bit. What are the additional methods of distribution that maybe we should be considering? Because you're mentioning a lot of things I'm sure are new to people, and maybe we can just kind of list out, pick your brain here.
In retail, it's just like selling to bookstores. You have to get a distributor or a wholesaler who in turn sells to the retailer. And the books are returnable. We get paid 60 to 90 days. So it's much like selling to a bookstore. But the distributors and wholesalers are different. So you have to find out those that are distributors that go to your segments. Could be airport stores. You might go through Hudson, but then you only have distribution to the Hudson stores. But you go through ReaderLink, for example, or CIMAC sales as distributors, and they will take your book to airport stores, but also supermarkets, also pharmacies, also discount stores and warehouse clubs, so that you find and just if you're not sure, call the retailer. Say, who's your distributor? If you have a book about pets, dogs or cats, well, go to the Pet Industry Distributors Association, PETA. PIDA, not PETA, and find they list their wholesalers, so you can get distribution to they have their list of their members, so that you can find the distributors and wholesalers to these mom and pop pet stores or to the Petcos and PetSmarts, so you can get distribution that way. Finding out for gift shops. And it could be airport airport gift shops, or it could be hotel gift shops. If your target's a traveler, it could be Hallmark, it could be Spencer Gifts. So again, another reason you want to know your target reader, because the customer at Spencer Gifts is much different from a customer at a Hallmark gift shop. And so you need to be able to, when you go to them, you create a proposal that demonstrates your knowledge of their target readers or their customers. And but find a distributor to that. And there's a website called greatrep.com, and they have lists of reps generally by area, and you find out where you want a target, where you want to get the gift shops, and then you get the reps in that area. So that also lists of the upcoming gift marts and gift shows, so you can maybe attend those. If you have pharmacies, there's Choice Books goes to pharmacies. So again, it's not just coming up with Ingram to take you to bookstores. It's coming up with the retailer, the retail segment, and getting the proper distributor or wholesaler who will take you to that group. If you have health stores, then NutriBooks, you go to something like that. So your distribution partners are different per segment, or maybe different per segment. ReaderLink will go to a wider number of these, but NutriBooks just goes to the health stores, and Great Rep will just the gift stores. So it's very, if you're not sure, ask the store, ask the retail, who's your distributor, and then you follow up with that. A lot of these retailers, like Walmart, has a list on their website of how to submit a book to the distributor. If you're going to the military, the Army Air Force Exchange Service, AFES.com, if you go to their website, they list the wholesalers with which they work, and then so you have to go to these wholesalers to get your book with them, and then they sell it to the exchange services. So it's I guess my answer to almost any question is it depends.
No, I mean, this is great. This is great. This is exactly to think outside of the box, And we had one of our successfully published authors that we had, and I interviewed her in a featured author interview, was a woman who wrote a children's book about going to the dentist because she's a dental hygienist or works in that field. And to think about, okay, well, how many dental offices are sitting in the world? I mean, that's a really smart way to think about it. It's not just a children's book. It's a specific area, and you want to be sitting there in that waiting room. So
A different strategy for that also, Joellen, is if you can go to all the dentist office in the country, and that might take you a while to do that.
exactly.
But what I found, if you go to a company that sells products to dental offices, and so you sell the book in 10,000 to one person at one time, they pay the shipping for it, the non-returnable, put their logo on the cover, and they make actually give them to the dentist.
Exactly.
So that, so that the dentist is using my product, then here's some books. Thanks for buying my product. Here's 5 books to give to your, or 10 books to give to your people in your waiting room. Or just have it in the waiting room so people can read it while they're there. It's maybe a children's picture book that they sitting in the waiting room, they read that to their kids. So you're in those dental offices, but you don't have to go to each one. The idea is that what I try to do is go to the highest level as possible and get them to buy it. And then for an association, you may get them for homeschooling. You have a book, which is a growing market. So you go to the National Homeschooling Association, get them to talk about your book to all their different groups around the country, and then give them a percentage of each sale. Or maybe they have a bookstore on their website, and so you sell it through there. But the idea is you try to go to the highest level possible. So you sell the most books to one entity at one time, instead of going to all the different people selling 5 books at a time. So you sell 10,000 at a time to the highest level.
Exactly. I mean, this is why we've got here today, the Association of Publisher for Special Sales. So that's very much where we need to be looking, is because, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of people also wanting to achieve the same goals as each other as authors. But I think to think outside of the box, to find a marketing expert like yourself and see how to define your niche market, define your audience, and then find where that fits is so fantastic for people. Is there anything else you wanted to share with our listeners today in regards to this?
I just think that book marketing in general is as simple as pie. If you look as pie as an acronym of plan, implement, and evaluate. Just don't go out and start doing something. Plan how you're going to hit these different segments, and divide it in retail and non-retail, and who your target readers are, and where they shop, and when do they buy. And so you do that plan, then implement it, and then evaluate your actions and what works, what doesn't work. And you want to do more of what works, and then do less of what, or change what doesn't work. Right. And so I look at the word plan as a verb, not a noun. So it's not something you just create a large document, which I did initially, but I learned that it's a work in progress. That you're always planning versus creating a plan. But that's why I have that. I just remember that simple as pie. You plan, implement, and evaluate your marketing efforts, and you're much more likely to succeed.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. This is fantastic. And I really, really think that everyone needs to come and get on Brian's newsletter, definitely, because there's a lot of information out there. And you can find out more information about Brian Judd at bookmarketing.com and booksellinguniversity.com. And we also had another one here. Let me see. You have your book.
bookapss.org, apps.org. That has a link to the website, to the newsletter too, with information about the association. And
and we have the Premium Book Company. And lastly, he loves to tweet out. So on Twitter, you can find him at Book Marketing. So that's a good place to hook up and get more, because you have been very valuable in this small amount of time we've been together. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome, Joellen. Thank you.
Have a great day.